What is going on, everybody? What is going on? The catch. Fam, my name is John Dawson, and in today's video, we are hopping into a 12-team full PPR mock draft for the 2023 fantasy football season. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button on the way in. All we do here is free fantasy football content all year round, redraft, dynasty, and best ball. Whether you guys are new to the channel or not, hit that like button on the way in. And most importantly, please feel free to drop any comments, questions, concerns pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season down below, as well as any mock draft requests that you guys have. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. As we go through today's mock, I will be giving you guys round by round advice as to what I would do from the 1.8 in the specific format. Other than that, we're just going to have some fun, talk some fantasy, and run through a mock draft and prepare for the 2023 fantasy football season. All right, so generally speaking, in the mock drafts that I've been running with my community, we're seeing Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase time after time at the 1.1 and 1.2. That's not going to shock a lot of people. Not a big surprise there. But after we get past those first two selections, there are a lot of players that will start to come off the board at various different rates, right? Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, who just went at 1.3, Bijan Robinson, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. Like those couple of players are going to be selected early in the first. Every now and then we might see Saquon Barkley creep in there, believe it or not, more recently, but majority of the time it's going to be those wide receivers that we just mentioned, Bijan, C-Mac, Eckler, off of the board early on. So sitting here at the 1.8, two things I would prefer to do, okay? I'm either going to go hero running back or I'm going to start my draft with a wide receiver. So Austin Eckler sitting here, yes, I will still take Austin Eckler at the 1.8. He's off the board. I personally don't go for a tight end in the first round. As much as I love Travis Kelce, I am not someone who drafts a tight end in the first round. So my highest rated wide receiver right here is actually going to be CeeDee Lamb. So I'll take him off the board there. I don't mind Stephon Diggs right there. If you want to go running back and start with Saquon Barkley, I don't mind that either. But CeeDee Lamb is my highest rated wide receiver on the board right now. I'm going to take him all day long right there. I don't mind A.J. Brown necessarily as well. And yeah, it's tough to pass on Travis Kelce, but the way that I personally construct rosters, I'm just not taking Kelce in the first round unless he's screaming at me. If I'm at the 111, 112, and even if I'm getting to the turn and I know I'm going to get a specific running back or wide receiver to start the second round, then I'll probably consider taking Kelce. But for me, it's just not part of my game plan. So Stephon Diggs gone at the 1.9, Garrett Wilson gone at the 1.10. Kelce's off the board at 1.11. I do like him right there. A.J. Brown wraps up the first round. Into the second we go. So staring down at the 2.5, a couple players that I really like right here, okay? My primary target is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He probably won't make it back to us, but he's my primary target. And there he goes at the 2.2. So now I'm obviously staring at Saquon Barkley, but if he's not sitting there, I'll probably go for, I don't know, I like Jalen Waddle right here. I still like Devontae Adams, even if I think his ceiling is potentially capped this year. We're at a weird place at the time that I'm recording this with Jonathan Taylor. Typically, I really like Jonathan Taylor at the 2.5, but between the holdout, the trade request, the pup list, Jim Irsay, I don't know. I'm staying away from Jonathan Taylor at the 2.5 at least at the moment. So for me, it's either Devontae Adams or Jalen Waddle. With this next selection, I'm going to go ahead and start this draft with a heavy wide receiver build from the 1.8. I don't actually mind Chris Olave, but for me, it's got to be Jalen Waddle. When we look at Waddle last year, this was your wide receiver 8 in full PPR. Had a fantastic year. I still think ultimately he's being slightly undervalued coming into this season. But yeah, 1,300 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, 75 receptions off of 117 targets. I mean, we know at the end of the day that Tua loves Jalen Waddle. That's not going to change. I think he is a great second-round target moving into this season. All right, so we do see Jonathan Taylor off the board at the 2.6. Like I said, it's just a weird time right now to really make Jonathan Taylor part of your game plan. We need like a couple more weeks to really see how things kind of sizzle out. I love Chris Olave at the 2.7, and now we see our first quarterback off the board at the 2.8. For me, we'll talk about quarterback tonight, but I'm probably not taking a quarterback in the second or third round. It's just too high of a price for me. But we'll get to the quarterback position in a little bit here. I still prefer an earlier round quarterback. All right. Derrick Henry's gone at the 2.9, Tony Pollard gone at the 2.10, and Ramondre Stevenson gone at the 2.11. Typically, based off of the mock drafts that I ran with my community, we do at least 5 a week live on the channel, sometimes even more. You start to see a little bit of a run at the running back position here at the end of the second, going into the third round. Okay. Derrick Henry, Pollard, Stevenson, Jacobs, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs will all be gone probably by the mid-third round. If one of those guys falls out to me at the 3.8, I'll take them all day long. I love that tier of running backs. But you typically see a little bit of a run right here. I love Devonta Smith at the 2.12. I do think if you start your draft at the 1.1 with Justin Jefferson, Devonta Smith is a great wide receiver too. T. Higgins is gone. Sometimes you'll see him go at the end of the second as well. Calvin Ridley's gone. I just ran a mock draft with my community last night where Ridley went at the end of the second round. He is really moving up in ADP. The offseason hype for Ridley is 110% real. So just be aware of that, especially since we're just about to begin August. By the end of August, I don't know where Ridley's going to be going. Metcalf's gone here. That's pretty typical. Middle of the third is where we're seeing him go. There goes ETN. And one more selection till we pick here. So I like Jahmyr Gibbs right here. I'm a little bit spooked about Breece Hall right now, but he has been a player that I've liked throughout the offseason at times. But I feel like anytime you're going kind of back and forth on a player, maybe it's a sign you need to stay away. So Jahmyr Gibbs, my primary target here. I would imagine the team here at 1.7 is probably not going running back, and they do go Jalen Hurts. So give me Jahmyr Gibbs as my RB1. He's going to be utilized heavily within that Lions offense, which last year ran the football a ton, utilized the running back position a ton. Gibbs is going to have a great role in terms of being able to be utilized in the passing game as well and bring that receiving upside. Love him as an RB1. I think he's a great selection at the 3.8. But keep in mind, in a lot of the mock drafts that I have ran throughout the offseason, kind of see Gibbs go a little bit earlier. Sometimes he falls out here. Sometimes he doesn't. I like him at the 3.8. I think he's fine as an RB1, brings a ton of upside to the table. So obviously a couple more quarterbacks gone here. Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen off of the board. You're going to see those guys go in the third round, sometimes even the end of the second. Just depends on the draft. All right, Kenneth Walker's gone at the 3.10. So I like Walker a lot. Walker and Hall right now are two tough players at the time I'm recording this to really pin down. You got Hall still, kind of slowly recovering from, I don't want to say slowly, but he's still recovering from, his ACL surgery. Then you've got Walker with the groin injury popping up. So those guys' ADP are going to be back and forth. Sometimes you might see them gone at the beginning of the third. Sometimes with Breece Hall, we've even seen him gone at the end of the second. So I like both those guys, and I'm less worried about Kenneth Walker. And the thing that actually worries me more about Breece Hall at the moment is, are the Jets going to sign Dalvin Cook or not? They sign Cook. I think that's a big red flag for Breece Hall and potentially his recovery and the Jets' belief in his recovery. So don't get me wrong, I like that Jets offense a lot. I like Breece Hall, but his ADP is kind of all over the place. I'd rather take a shot on Walker with just a groin injury. I still think Walker is a really good value where he's going generally in mock drafts. If the groin injury was out of the picture, I might even like him over Jahmyr Gibbs at the 3.8. All right, Mark Andrews, our second tight end, off the board to end the third. Into the fourth we go. Amari Cooper, Aaron Jones, Christian Watson. I'm up at the 4.5. Could go with a second running back here. Could take a quarterback in Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. But the way I play, I go pretty aggressive at the wide receiver position. I've been drafting DJ Moore all off season long, really regardless of ADP. I just love DJ Moore as a wide receiver 3. Okay. Some people, go ahead and let me know in the comments. You're going to hate that. Some people aren't going to mind it. Some people are going to be on board with me. DJ Moore has been a guy that since he was traded to the Bears, I have been all in on all off season long. Okay. I love him as a flex option, as a wide receiver 3. That's the important part. Not a lot of builds I'm going through with where DJ Moore is my wide receiver 2, for example. Okay. But yeah, I think it is smart to continue to follow the trends of wide receivers acquiring a new quarterback one way or another. Okay. AJ Brown with the Eagles last year, switching from Ryan Tannehill to Jalen Hurts. That was very good. Matthew Stafford going to the Rams the year before. That was very good for Cooper Kupp. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers year before that. Those Tampa Bay wide receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they were eating for 2 years straight. And arguably this offseason, the biggest movement that we have is DJ Moore to the Bears. Don't get me wrong. Calvin Ridley to the Jaguars. I get it. I like Calvin Ridley a lot. But I just love DJ Moore right now. I think he's going to have a good year. I'm a believer in Justin Fields. I think this Bears offense is going to take another step forward this coming year. I know Fields was not a great passer last year. I think he's going to be a better passer this year. I said the same thing all off season long last year about Jalen Hurts. Even the year before that, I was high on Jalen Hurts, and he still had a good year from a fantasy perspective. So don't get me wrong. Do I think Justin Fields is going to be Jalen Hurts this year? Not necessarily, but I believe in DJ Moore. I've said it all off season long. If you guys are familiar with this channel, it shouldn't be a surprise to you. I love him as a wide receiver 3. All right. Anyways, 4th round wrapping up here. Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, Drake London, Miles Sanders, Joe Burrow, the only quarterback gone in the 4th. Jerry Jeudy's gone. Hollywood Brown's gone. This is where things get interesting for me. There are a lot of players I really like. I really like Brandon Ayuk right here, and I really like Christian Kirk. Those are 2 more of my guys that are hard for me to pass on to get that wide receiver depth. For tonight's roster, we are practicing 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and just 1 flex spot with a kicker and defense and 5 bench spots. So, if I'm practicing for a double flex league, which I will do, which we do mock for on this channel, I'm definitely eyeing a wide receiver right here. But being that we're in a single flex format and I feel pretty good in terms of a hero running back style, there's a couple things we can do here. Love Ayuk. I love Christian Kirk. They're going to be hard to pass on. We could look to our RB2. I like DeAndre Swift. I like Rachaad White. I like David Montgomery, all his options. Probably not going to be as high on Monty in this draft because I have Jahmyr Gibbs. But the other option here is to go ahead and take a quarterback at the 5.8. Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, all available here. I do personally believe that Fields brings the most upside out of those guys. Obviously, you guys just heard me talk a lot about Justin Fields. But I'm going to go ahead and take Christian Kirk here. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. I think he's been undervalued throughout the whole offseason. Another guy, similar to DJ Moore, who I've talked about all offseason long, okay? Yes, Calvin Ridley's going to be good this year. Christian Kirk is still going to be good, okay? He is going to line up in the slot. He's going to be that security blanket for Trevor Lawrence. T-Law is going to take another step forward as a passer this year. He's going to be able to support both Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley. And I actually think the addition of Calvin Ridley to this offense, him being able to take the top off of defenses, is going to be good for Christian Kirk as a whole. So Christian Kirk, full PPR, a guy that I absolutely love. Love this wide receiver room that we've drafted so far tonight in CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, and Christian Kirk. Absolutely beautiful in my mind. Okay, still love Jahmyr Gibbs as our RB1. All right, so now the question is, when we're coming up to the 6.5, in my opinion, with Fields and Herbert gone, Trevor Lawrence is the last of the overall elite tier. I mean, you have a super elite tier in Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, and probably Burrow. Then a little bit of a drop in Lamar, Fields, Herbert, T-Law. You could debate one way or another, right? But those are like the top quarterbacks in my mind, right, going into this season. And if T-Law is here, it's going to be hard to pass on him, especially having that stack with Christian Kirk. Do I think you have to have stacks in a redraft format? No. Sometimes they're kind of nice, sometimes they're not nice. You know how it goes. But the other option, if I don't go T-Law here, is that we're going to go a little bit of a late round quarterback build, go for a guy maybe like Deshaun Watson or Dak Prescott, Tua, Geno Smith, and Daniel Jones. I don't know. If we do go that late, a quarterback, I'd like to take two guys. And there goes Trevor Lawrence. So it's not even an option. So for me, that makes things a lot easier. We're going to take the best available running back here and snag up our RB2. So there are a couple guys I like, but for me, it's between DeAndre Swift and Rachaad White. And I know a lot of you guys out there are not going to be fans of me taking DeAndre Swift potentially here, which I'm going to do, as my RB2, but I don't have any problem with it whatsoever. I mean, one thing you just have to do is you have to draft for upside on your respective fantasy teams, okay? And DeAndre Swift brings upside to the table. Because that's kind of what he does overall when he's healthy. I get it. He has some injury concerns, to say the least. But B, because he's on the Philadelphia Eagles, who are going to be one of, if not the best offense in the entire NFL this coming year. DeAndre Swift, a guy who reportedly in training camp has already been lining up all over the place. He's going to be the running back who's involved in the passing game and full PPR formats. I love DeAndre Swift as an RB2. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm very, very optimistic that he's going to have a good season. Okay, the other running back that I really like right there went at the 6.7 in Rachaad White. I think Rachaad White's going to have a great year. I've talked about him all off season long. He's like my late round running back that I absolutely adore. Love him as an RB3, but if I get him as my RB2, I'm not necessarily upset at the end of the day. So this is another area of the draft. We kind of talked about the end of the second going into the beginning of the third as an area where you start to see a little bit of a run at the running back position. Middle of the sixth through most of the seventh, you're going to start to see those kind of handcuff committee, maybe not on great offense, running backs, guys with injury concerns, Kamara with the suspension, whatever it is, start to kind of fly off the board. Okay, there's some good wide receiver value in here as well. We see Jordan Addison, Jahan Dotson, JSN off the board, but you're going to see a lot of running backs start to get snagged up, generally speaking, in this area. So for me, looking at the 7.8, since there's really no quarterbacks who I feel like we need to take here, and we're solid at wide receiver at the moment, for me, I'm going to go with another running back, okay? If you guys are wondering, I generally go tight end later in my draft, so I'm not worried about that right now. The guys that I like at running back, moving into the 7.8, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, AJ Dillon, Antonio Gibson. Like, we're just going to take one of those guys and kind of hope for the best. Okay. I think all those guys in their own respective ways bring a little bit of upside to the table. Antonio Gibson and James Cook, probably the most. But I actually, all off season long, have been a big fan of Isaiah Pacheco, especially in the RB3 range. I mean, he's tied to the Chiefs. They're going to get it done one way or another. I know that's not always great for the running back position. But at the end of the day, this is a great offense. I think Pacheco really came into his own throughout the playoffs last year. I like him in the RB3 range. Do I think his ceiling's crazy high? Not necessarily, but I do like him, and I'm fine with him here at the 7.8. All right, so seventh round wraps up there. Mike Williams, George Pickens, Kyle Pitts, James Cook. Into the eighth round we go. So kind of two options for me right here. Maybe three. Maybe we reach for a wide receiver that we really like Zay Flowers. Maybe we go for our fourth and final running back, like AJ Dillon or Brian Robinson, now that Antonio Gibson is gone. I might actually end up doing that. Maybe we just take our tight end off the board with kind of still semi-elite guys in Evan Ingram and Pat Freiermuth here. Like I said, I kind of go late round tight end. If I have to wait for Cole Kmet, I'm not upset with that. But I also don't want to get in a position where Cole Kmet and Greg Dulcich, my two favorite guys, are gone. So if you want to go Freiermuth here, maybe Evan Ingram, I'm okay with that. But I do think we get a pretty steep drop off at the running back position after this tier. So, like, am I in love with AJ Dillon or Brian Robinson? Not necessarily, but let's go ahead and just take AJ Dillon. I still think he actually brings some pretty good upside to the table. When we look at what he did at the end of last season, it wasn't bad by any means. He had 10 or more fantasy points in 5 of the last 6 games last year. Hopefully, with Jordan Love at quarterback, that kind of carries over and the Packers potentially run the football more than last year. I don't know. I mean, I've always kind of been an A.J. Dillon fan. I like him as a RB4. This is probably my last year if he kind of burns me. So I'll take him here. And that kind of gives us our final running back because for myself in this particular format, once again, one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, one flex, kicker, defense, 5 bench spots. I'm fine with just 4 running backs. And you know what? There's actually a small potential that Fryermuth falls out to 9.8 and we still get one of those semi-elite tight ends. If he doesn't, the 2 guys I'm targeting, I already mentioned them, Cole Kmet and Greg Dulcich. I don't mind David Njoku, of course, as well. But I think if you get one of those guys, you're probably okay at the tight end position. All right, so the 8th round wraps up there. The guy that I really like who did go was Zay Flowers. I do think Flowers has the potential to be the wide receiver 1 for the Ravens, even with OBJ, even with Rashad Bateman there, and even with Andrew still getting the targets he's going to get. I love Zay Flowers in this range. I consider going with him over A.J. Dillon, but we'll move along here. When we're looking at the available wide receivers, I just am not in love with this tier of wide receivers. Michael Thomas, self-explanatory. Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe okay in full PPR, but no real upside there. Gabe Davis, I mean, how many of us got burnt by Gabe Davis last year? He's okay where he's being drafted at, but the volatility that he brings to the table is just too much of a headache. Cortland Sutton, believe it or not, I'm actually okay with in full PPR right here. The ceiling's super low when we look at last year, but he only gave you single-digit performances 4 times in games he was healthy last year. So I actually don't hate him in this range. So sitting here, there's a couple things we could do. We could go with the top available quarterback, which is Tua. We could take Cortland Sutton. We could take a running back we haven't mentioned, or we could take our tight end. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Cole Kmet right here because with Njoku going at 9.1 and then Fryermuth going at 9.6, who we almost actually had land to us, but we have the team here at the 1.6 going with 2 tight ends. You won't always really see that, but it happened tonight. I'm going to take Kmet off the board because when I look in front of me, there's at least one team without a tight end. Then there's one team with George Kittle who has some injury history. So I just don't want to risk it. Cole Kmet is my late round tight end that I target on a regular basis if Fryermuth does not fall out. And I do love Greg Dulcich as well. But let's just lock up the tight end position and let's move along. Okay, Jake Nkonkwo's gone. I don't mind targeting Greg Dulcich if he falls out to the right value. But for the most part, one tight end, let's move along. Okay. What do we do next? We go with Tua, who I don't mind with this next selection. We could go with another wide receiver. In terms of the wide receivers available that I actually like Allen Lazard. I think he's going to be a good security blanket for Aaron Rodgers. I think in full PPR, does he have a crazy high ceiling? No, but I do think that he brings enough value to the table. I like Jacoby Myers in this range. The Raiders are going to be playing from behind a lot because that defense, quite frankly, is awful. So I do like Jacoby Myers. I really like Sky Moore. And guys, I'm telling you right now, if you want Sky Moore on your fantasy teams, you're going to need to be prepared to draft him against his current ADP. And that might be what I do tonight. I might just go ahead and draft Sky Moore to make a point because Sky Moore is going all over the place. The last live mock that I did on the channel, he went in the 9th round. But I've seen him go in the 12th round as of late. I've seen him go in the 11th. I've seen him go in the 10th. He's just all over the place. He's gaining enough hype this offseason that it's really hard to pin him down. Okay. I like Tua here. You know what? For the sake of the mock, I'm going to go Tua right here. Going to get my quarterback out of the way. I love Tua as a late round quarterback for a lot of different reasons. I get the concussion issues. I get it. But that's why I wanted to pick Tua, was to prove a point. There goes Sky Moore in the 10th. I feel like there are enough of you out there that if I picked Sky Moore at the 10.5, you wouldn't have believed me that he would go this early. And he is going that early. He has gained enough hype this offseason. I mean, essentially, he is looking like he's going to replace that Juju Smith-Schuster role from the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver room that we saw last year, and hopefully actually be consistent with it going into the season. So, Sky Moore, a ton of hype around him. I don't mind him in the 10th round as a wide receiver 5. And, when you guys are going through your mock drafts this offseason, whether you started them right after the Super Bowl or you started them today, you need to make notes of these things, right? Like in this specific mock, I took Tua in the 10th, but I could have taken Sky Moore. It is okay to have on paper that you potentially had a team with Sky Moore as your wide receiver 5, but you decided to go quarterback instead. Now we just need to look as we move along through the end of this draft, right? We have a pretty decent roster, in my opinion. We got Tua at quarterback, Gibbs and Swift at running back, CeeDee Lamb, Waddle, and DJ Moore as our current starting wide receivers, Cole Kmet as our starting tight end, Christian Kirk as our first bench wide receiver, then Isaiah Pacheco and AJ Dillon, rightfully so, on the bench as our backup running back. So for those last two spots, I just want to get the best available wide receiver I can, which could have been Sky Moore, but it's not. And then either the next best available wide receiver or a second quarterback. I don't generally draft 2 quarterbacks in a 1 QB redraft format, but I do think if you're looking at Tua as your starting quarterback, you might want to consider it just with the injury history and everything that happened last year. So, Anthony Richardson would be a lot of fun. He's gone. Kirk Cousins is always going to be stable. I mean, say what you want about him, but he was your QB6 in fantasy last year. But you've kind of got a tier here. Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff. You could pick any of those guys as your QB2, and I'm fine with it. And I think if you go with your QB2 here in the 11th over a potential wide receiver, you're not losing a ton of value at the wide receiver position. So for me, the guy that I really like is Geno Smith. This was your quarterback 5 last year. And when you look at the offense right now, you still have Metcalf, you still have Lockett, Noah Fant's good to go. You add JSN, you have Kenneth Walker, you add Charbs as a pass catching running back. Yeah, I get it. The Walker and Charbonnet injuries or whatever, but we have a lot of time till the regular season starts. They're going to be okay. When you look at this offense, it's locked and loaded. Geno Smith should repeat as a top 10 quarterback, top 12 quarterback at worst. I'll take Geno all day long behind Tua. Like I said, don't generally go that route. But right now, for a late round quarterback build, I feel like we're in a good spot. Now at the 12.5, we'll just take the best available wide receiver. And once again, it's easy just to take note here. Sky Moore at the 10.5, put a little asterisk. Geno Smith in the 11th, then a 6 wide receiver in the 12th round. That is the other way this mock could have turned out. And either way, I'm pretty happy with this mock draft because this is a 1 flex format. I'm very confident in the first 4 wide receivers I took. I like this running back room led by Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Cole Kmet is a great value in the 9th. And we're going to get good enough quarterback play out of these 1 to 2 quarterbacks in the 10th and 11th rounds. Now, there's a lot of buzz in terms of the fantasy community right now that you have to go quarterback early. You have to get one of those top tier guys like Trevor Lawrence or beforehand, like we talked about earlier. I'm not particularly against that. When you look at the point differential between quarterbacks last year, between the top 6 or 7 guys and everyone else, I kind of totally get it. It makes a lot of sense. But if the right value at your skill position players are sitting there and you're going out and taking them, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do believe that Geno and Tua, for example, can both be top 10, top 12 guys and still get you over the hump as long as you go out and get the right skill position guys. So I'm still kind of in between. Do I think you have to go quarterback early? Not 100%. Am I against it? Not at all. Do I think you can get by and still have a very successful fantasy season this year with going late round quarterback? Yes, I still think you can. So, like I said, 12.5, best available wide receivers, where we want to go here. For me, there's a couple guys that I like here. Romeo Doubs is the guy that I really like. I do think he's going to get enough targets within that offense that he is going to be actually pretty good from a full PPR perspective. We're getting a lot of reports that he is Jordan Love's favorite target. He's kind of that security blanket guy. And then Christian Watson's taking the top off of defenses. He's the upside play. He's going to have a good year. I love Christian Watson. I think he's being drafted accordingly. But Romeo Dobbs, I love right here. The other player that I really like is Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed is a player in the fantasy community similar to Sky Moore who doesn't have a true ADP. Rashid Shaheed could go in the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, or the 14th round. He can go anywhere, okay? But there are enough fantasy managers right now who are big enough fans of Rashid Shaheed that if you want him on your team at the end of your drafts, at the end of your mocks, you're going to have to make a decision to probably draft him against his current ADP. So right now in front of him on the board, you've got Adam Thielen, Zay Jones, Michael Gallup, DJ Chark, and Jalen Hyatt. He's after that, you've got KJ Osborne, John Mechie, Jaden Reed, Alec Pierce, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Just to give you a perspective, okay? He's at an ADP of 182.3 according to Sleeper. I absolutely love Rashid Shaheed. I think he's going to be a very good wide receiver 2 this year. I think, when you look at the style of play that he has, Derek Carr, who threw the most deep balls in the league last year, is going to be throwing some bombs to Rashid Shaheed. I like him more than Michael Thomas at his current ADP. I think he's a great late round selection. But like I said, full PPR. I also really like Romeo Dobbs. I think he's a great pick at the 12.5. So essentially what we're going to do here is keep this mock true to format. We're just going to draft a kicker and defense. Then we're going to wrap it up. So please let me know in the comments down below if you guys have any mock draft requests, regardless of format. 10 teams, 12 teams, 8 teams, double quarterback, super flex, 3 tight ends. I don't care. This is what I do every August for you guys. As long as you are subscribed to the channel, I will take any mock draft requests and run it for you in a video. On top of that, be sure to join our free Discord down below. We have a mock draft channel on there. You guys can post mock drafts at any time, and true competitive fantasy members of our community will hop in and mock draft with you guys. Outside of that, if you guys have any fantasy football questions pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season, if you guys are in dynasty leagues, if you guys are preparing to draft next week, if you guys just have general questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I possibly can. One last look at the team here. This would be our starting lineup, okay? Tua, Jahmyr Gibbs, DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore. We're going to get a kicker any second here. We got the Cowboys defense. Christian Kirk, Isaiah Pacheco, A.J. Dillon, Geno Smith, and Romeo Dobbs. All in all, I feel pretty good about this draft. And like I said, we'll just draft a kicker and wrap it up. So be sure to hit that like button on the way out. Like I said, drop me some comments. Let me know what you guys think of this draft. Was it awful? Was it okay? Was it good? Whatever. And please let me know if you guys need anything pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season. And that'll wrap up today's mock draft. Stay posted for our next live mock draft. All of our mock draft invites are posted on our free Discord. Like I said, join down below. Link to our Instagrams down below. Follow us on Instagram. Hit the like, subscribe, do all that stuff. It's fantasy football season. We'd love to have you as a member of the Catch Fam. Come out, talk some fantasy, draft with us. It's going to be a great season. I'm excited. I'm pumped for it. Please, please, please let me know if you guys have any mock draft requests as well. That'll do it for today's video. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch. And peace.